to a teaching to the test period?
It never was meant to be teaching to the test period, as I get very uncomfortable every time I hear that, and I keep saying it isn't teaching to the test period. It isn't. In reality, is knowing which standards the students aren't proficient, and we're teaching. That is, I guess you could say teaching to the test because the test tests the standards. But in reality, it's the content. I would want my own children, I always did, make sure they were proficient on the standards. If you've read the standards, which I'm sure you have, they're pretty impressive. You would want your child to be a critical reader. You would want all those skills too. You would want your child to be proficient at the math skills and in science. So yes, you can say you're teaching, as a matter of fact, I'm going to say, no, we're not teaching to the test. We are identifying areas of need that are based on standards, and we are trying to remediate that.
I just have one other question. On slide 21, where you talk about those growth scores for teachers, and you're looking at their performance from year over year, I'm just curious, are they looking at, because each year your class is different, so can you explain to me how that works? Is it are they measuring how much growth you saw in your class last year versus what growth you saw in your class the following year? How do they calculate that?
So it's by group of the class in front of you. So I had a group of 30 students in front of me who collectively are blue, light blue, right? Now the next teacher should keep them that light blue with the group that they have in front of them. It is a metric that I'm not even going to begin to tell you that I understand how they get to it. But the thinking behind it is, if you have a group of students who came in at light blue, they should at least stay at light blue. Even if a teacher has a group that came in at yellow, if they stayed at yellow, they met their growth expectations. It's a matter of they can't go backwards. So if you go to first base and you're now at second base, you can't go back to first. You have to stay at second or move to third.
And I guess that's an average then, because the class, they're all mixing together, so you're following that data in the program.
It's not individual, that's correct.
I have a question about the middle school. So we have this SMART period. Is that taking place during 11th period? And if not, how are we utilizing 11th period to, help students that need more help? Because that's one of the goals or one of the purposes of 11th period.
11th period is complicated. I wanted 11th period to be the period that we did that. There's some remediation going on in 11th period. But the principals thought it was better they have a SMART period built in for various reasons, where they use first period as this intervention period, the SMART period, and then all the other periods are shortened throughout the day. And that's how they're currently using the intervention period. In terms of 11th period, there's no consistent strategy across all three schools. That is an area that we need to look at. And again, we wanted to start somewhere. If this is where they thought it was best to start, as the building principals, have them start there, and we work our way to where we really want to be. And 11th period is a venue that would probably produce some good results there, because we do have the time. There's just a lot of different things that go on in 11th period. I know everybody's familiar with 11th period. So no, there is not a consistent strategy going on in 11th period right now. It's their SMART period.
So maybe next year you'll be looking at, or whatever, over the summer, maybe something to address 11th period next year?
Yes, and we're already talking about that, to say that is someplace that we think we could do good work and use that time for students in different ways, and this particular one to target deficits.
Right, and maybe not even if it's somebody, but you don't want to keep them from some of their activities, but maybe even if it's for just part of the year, or part of the quarter, or, yeah. So I think that would be good since it's there. Yeah, thank you. Other questions?
One more question. Is there a reason why the three middle schools weren't, why the three middle school principals didn't use the same strategy? Why they didn't, why there isn't that consistency?
Well, one of the reasons is the building principal in the one school isn't here. So he was part of the original discussion. So he's not here right now. And I don't take autonomy from the principals. What I went to with them saying, we need to do something, I'd like to do it at 11th period, these are some of the things that I'd like to have done. Then the discussion was, well, where's the best place to do that? What will work now? This isn't at the beginning of the year, we need to do something mid-year. What would work best in our buildings? So the three middle school principals made those decisions. They're similar, they're not that different, but they're just slightly different. So if you hear that it's happening a little bit differently in one school to the other, I'm sure you will hear that. Everybody had the same target, but they didn't have exactly the same way they were going to do it. What they are all doing is using that period, whether they call it smart period or not, they're all doing the one period, and they're all looking at the data, in particular, the students who we know are very close to being proficient. That's one group of students constantly talking about, like for our special learning support students at South, those teachers are working with their group of students because they're working on alternate standards. So that's happening at South, which isn't happening at the other two buildings because they don't have those classes. So they're using their staff strategically and what they thought was best for now. But to Mrs. Yardley's point, the conversation is going to continue. We're going to make that better and as part of what we do for students who need it, not for everyone who don't need it, right? That's not our purpose.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you. So I guess you'll just continue to update us as, things change or you have more information?
Yes, and I'm hoping to come back after the scores are in to tell you that things are working. That is really, that's what we want. That's what I'm hoping. I'm coming back here to say, this is where it's working, and we're going to keep going that way.
Right, and that should be, the scores come out in August?
Typically.
Yeah, and then so probably September.
Yes, September, by the time everything gets back in, and now that we're going to have the Future Ready Index instead of an SPP score, because Future Ready Index is the new report card, right? So it's not just an SPP score. It'll be a little bit different, but we will still have scores like this, so I can still show you our improvement.
So the number that we have, it will have a totally different number on a different scale.
Looks that way.
Okay,
I mean, they change it.
I know,
You can't.
it's frustrating.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that is the end of our agenda items, and we are back to public comment. Any public comment?
Actually, can I just butt in here? Thank you, Dr. Scheid, for inviting us into the classrooms. I did take Matt Peitzman up on his offer, and I was there today, so what a wonderful experience. So the kids were all engaged and collaborative, and so it was wonderful, so
Oh, I'm
thank you.
so glad
Thank
you got
Mrs.
to do that.
Thank
And I
you.
hope you get to go to the writing in
I
the
hope so,
elementary
too.
schools
Yes.
because you will love that as well.
Yes, thank you.
All right, everyone's good, we're moving on. Okay, so public comment. We've got somebody back there.
Very good, thank you. Hi, I'm Melinda Griffin. I work at North Middle School. I'm a health and physical education teacher. My biggest concern is I've worked for the district for 20 years. I've seen a lot of changes these past few years with our commitment to the health and physical education program. It seems like whenever scheduling gets challenging or there's an introduction of new content, at a level, that our time with children disappears. At the high school level, there was a reduction in the 10th grade swimming program from 4 times a cycle to a semester course. At the middle school, we lost 45 days with the kids. And at the elementary level, we're looking at taking health off of the schedule, which is a separate entity from physical education, and teaching this class what appears to be once every 15 days. I'm not really sure how we can deliver that program with any degree of fidelity in that structure. When we make these changes, I tend to go back to look at the data. Like, is there any data that really supports the elimination or the delivery of instruction in that manner? I mean, we have our PACE survey, we have our BMI with kids, we have things from the CDC that says our kids are dealing with drugs, they're dealing with obesity issues, with mental health issues. I think it's very easy to overlook that, and I would encourage you, when you take a look at revising that schedule at the elementary level, if you do go to the 45-minute blocks, to please include health into that 45-minute slot so that we can deliver that and we can scaffold our curriculum. So when I get these kids at the middle school level, they have a basic understanding of drugs, drug education, refusal skills, body systems, things like that. At the middle school, that's not where we want to be having our first really serious discussion about drug education, because they're already neck deep in it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, other public comment?
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mrs. Fromo.
Okay. Sue Furlong, West Rockville Township. As a taxpayer, I sit here and I see where you spend over $250,000 for 15 to 20 students in journalism on the TV thing. I see no production facilities here at the meetings or content on TV channel, anything like that. So at least to date, it appears we spent $225,000 plus whatever I don't know about on the work orders to remodel those rooms. I see that we spent 2 years looking at different ways to schedule courses, block scheduling versus the way we do it. Now we're looking at, we're going to have how many kids trying to go from Spanish to English and then across the hallway from English to Spanish, so that I guess they can press the number 2 button as well as the number 1 button when they call and they say, do you want English or Spanish? As a taxpayer, I know that we've lost 220 grade school, elementary school kids in the last 3 or 4 years. And I don't see any great savings coming from that large of a decline in the enrollment. But I see, let's make guitars, let's, spend $250,000 on cameras, for, the TV production room. It seems very disorganized, but you're always throwing money at it. I don't know why you have to have a $81,000 teacher coming in on the Spanish. Why don't you budget a graduate of college at 40-some thousand plus pennies? If you're going to do something, try to do it at a lower cost instead of at the cost of a teacher with, I don't know how many years experience you need for $80,000, but I know that a new teacher comes in 40s. So it's just like, oh, we don't care, let's throw some more money away. $225,000 to Quakertown up at the Upper Bucks. Every time I turn around, it's money out the door. The Valerta thing, that's millions of dollars out the door. And I don't see the savings, like I said, where it could be with the lower, nobody seems to be making plans for the lower enrollment that's being projected in the building utilization study. So, at a certain point in time, and then the YMCA thing for the swimming. As a taxpayer, am I going to pay for some child to go to the YMCA to learn how to swim? That's not on me. If the parent wants to take them to the YMCA to learn how to swim, that parent needs to pay for that. That's not my obligation. If you want to keep it within here in the school, then fine, but I don't need to pay for people to go to the YMCA. That's on their time, that's on their decision, that's not me. Don't saddle me with that cost. Let's start to be reasonable towards the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? budget comes together, we'll have more information comes together. And as the PE teacher perspective on that. So, all right, thank you everyone for coming. We are adjourned. Yeah, no, we just was like, oh, I know, well, and what I was doing was I was trying to solve that. We'll have a big, sadly, we'll have a big Saturday probably coming up. But, yeah, no, it's awesome, no, I think it's a great idea.
And they do large orders, I'm shocked. But anyway, the schools that have students.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, so my friend